and welcome to the on-demand webinar covering flexible spending accounts, tools for service members. The slides are available for download on the event page. We will be covering continuing education information closer to the end of the hour, so please stay tuned at the end if you're interested in continuing education credits or receiving a certificate of attendance. If you have any questions throughout today's presentation, please email us at contact@oneop.org. Thank you for joining us as we continue our partnership with the Department of Defense and the U.S. Department of Agriculture to expand the readiness, knowledge, and networks of the professionals supporting our military service members and their families. The views expressed in this presentation do not necessarily reflect the official policy of the Defense Department, U.S. Department of Agriculture, U.S. government, or OneOp. The mention of any entity or product is for informational purposes only. Today, I am pleased to introduce our presenter, Dr. Beth A. Darius, who serves as a program analyst for financial readiness in the Office of Military Compensation and Financial Readiness, Office of the Undersecretary for Personnel Readiness, U.S. Department of Defense. Her current portfolio covers a vast array of financial literacy and readiness assessment efforts, policy development, and legislation analysis. Dr. Darius also provides oversight for the Flexible Spending Account Program. Previous work in this office includes oversight of the financial literacy and readiness curriculum and training portfolio. Dr. Darius's career experiences include serving as a community readiness specialist, financial readiness at Headquarters, U.S. Air Force, developing and implementing the U.S. Air Force Personal Financial Readiness Program. She provided contract services as a financial counselor and educator at Joint Base Charleston and as an educational services facilitator at Naval Submarine Base New London in the Life Skills Deployment and Ombudsman Program areas. Prior to that, she worked in public schools in Hawaii and New York as a high school mathematics teacher. Dr. Darius proudly served as a volunteer ombudsman, multiple commands, and ombudsman assembly chair before her husband's retirement from the Navy. Her experiences as a military kid, spouse, and mom provided irreplaceable life opportunities. Dr. Darius earned a doctoral degree in applied learning sciences from the University of Miami and is an accredited financial counselor. At this time, I will hand things over to Dr. Darius to begin today's presentation.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here today. We'll be talking about flexible spending accounts. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Today's webinar will cover several learning objectives and topics in the area of FSAs, including comparing the dependent care flexible spending accounts and the healthcare flexible spending accounts, summarizing the FSA enrollment process, account management, and eligibility requirements, determining service member specific situations where an FSA would be a helpful financial planning tool, and knowing where to go for more information. Let's get started. What exactly are FSAs? FSAs are optional tax-advantaged accounts that enable eligible service members to set aside pre-tax earnings for qualified health or dependent care expenses. There are two types of FSAs: healthcare FSAs, which cover eligible medical, dental, and vision costs, and there's also the dependent care FSA, which covers daycare expenses for children under 13 or incapacitated adults. FSA key benefits include a reduced taxable income and the ability to help plan for known expenses. So, who is eligible to participate? Members of the uniformed services are eligible to participate. Specifically, members of the regular component or active duty of all uniformed services, including the military services, the National Atmospheric Administration Commissioned Officer Corps, the United States Public Health Service, and the Coast Guard. This also includes reserve component members performing active Guard Reserve or AGR duty and members of the Coast Guard Reserve, including reserve component managers, performing active duty for more than 180 days. Ineligible members include the reserve component who are not activated for more than 180 days or performing AGR duties. Reserve component members in the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and U.S. Public Health Service Commissioned Corps, members of the United States Marine Corps Reserve. Now, let's discuss the details of healthcare FSAs. We know that FSAs allow you to set aside pre-tax earnings. For the healthcare FSA, you can use that money to cover eligible out-of-pocket expenses for health, medical, dental, and vision expenses in addition to the medical care coverage provided by TRICARE. There are no additional requirements, such as marriage or a child or a medical condition, for a service member to be able to sign up to use an HCFSA. Expenses are covered in your HCFSA? Common eligible expenses range from medical expenses, dental and vision expenses for glasses, orthodontics, copays, wellness services, prescribed and over the counter medication, and some other healthcare items. Common ineligible expenses include insurance premiums, diet foods, cosmetic procedures or surgeries, diapers, and standard formula for infants. An extensive list of both eligible and ineligible expenses can be found at the FSAfeds.gov website, and other resources are also available at the finred.usalearning.gov website. All right, let's check and see what you think about this eligibility. I am an active component E3 who recently learned about HCFSA. It sounds like a versatile benefit that will allow me to customize my health and well-being expenses. I hope to incorporate monthly chiropractic adjustments and acupuncture into my well-being plan. Can I use an HCFSA to help with these expenses? What do you think? Is this individual eligible to use an HCFSA for their desired expenses? Yes, this person could use an HCFSA to help with these expenses. All right. Well, what do you think about this one? An active component E6 with 4 children. With multiple children, we have a lot of medical expenses, including dental copays and x-rays. Also, my oldest son is ready for braces, which will be a large expense for our family. We are concerned about our family's current and upcoming medical expenses. Can an HCFSA help? What are your thoughts? Is this family eligible to use an HCFSA? You got it. This family is eligible to use an HCFSA and may benefit from setting aside pre-tax earnings to help pay for the planned medical expenses. Now, there are some instances where some services and products may need a service member to submit a letter of medical necessity from a medical provider to cover certain expenses using their HCFSA. Examples are listed here and could include things such as vitamins and supplements or weight loss programs. Sample medical letter of sample letter of medical necessity is available on the FSA Feds website. How much can you contribute to your HCFSA? As of 2025, eligible service members can contribute anywhere from $100 to $3,300 to an HCFSA that's per individual per plan year or the calendar year during which your account is eligible. It's important to note that the maximum contribution you can elect to put in an HCFSA is determined by the IRS and that is indexed to inflation, so it can vary each year. You can verify what the maximum is via the irs.gov website each year. Now, what should you consider when you're determining how much to contribute to your HCFSA? First of all, know some unused funds can carry over to the next year. At this time, $660 can be carried over to the next plan year if the service member re-enrolls in the benefit during the next open season. Open season refers to the specific time of year when enrollment or re-enrollment takes place. For an HCFSA, all funds are available immediately at the beginning of your program year. Your entire contribution as election is available at the start of your plan year, which is either January 1st if you enroll during open season, or the day after your first pay period following enrollment if you enroll through what is known as a qualifying life event or QLE. QLEs can include getting married or divorced or even having a baby. You and your spouse can maintain two separate HCFSA accounts if your spouse also has a similar employer-sponsored plan. In that scenario, you can each contribute between $100 up to $3,300 for a total of $6,600 per plan year. Okay, covered a lot of information. So, what do you think? Which of these expenses are HCFSA eligible? Take a look at this screen. Um, what do you think could be considered HCFSA eligible? How'd you do? The boxes in navy blue are the eligible expenses, such as massage therapy, dental exams, braces and cleanings, feminine hygiene products. The box in yellow or gold is a one where could be eligible but requires a letter of medical necessity. The boxes in gray are ineligible expenses. For a full list, make sure you visit fsafeds.gov. Now, how do you get reimbursed? Well, unfortunately, paperless reimbursement is not available for military members, but TRICARE expenses are eligible for reimbursement, but they are not automatically deducted from a service member's HCFSA. You must submit a receipt and claim the expenses manually via the FSA Feds app, online website, or by fax or mail. Now, in a world full of acronyms, please note the important differences between an HCFSA and an HSSA or Health Savings Account. These two are not the same. A health savings account must be paired with a high deductible health plan or HDHP. TRICARE is not considered an HDHP. Therefore, service members are not eligible for a health savings account, but you are eligible for a healthcare flexible spending account. Additional differences you can see are um, differences in the annual contribution amounts and what can be carried over, uh, and whether or not an employee can take the account with them when they leave the service or the job. Now, let's turn to dependent care flexible spending accounts or DCFSAs. Specifically for DCFSAs, there are additional eligibility requirements that must be met. You must have a dependent that is younger than 13 years old or a dependent who is mentally or physically unable to care for themselves, regardless of age. The dependent must be designated as a tax dependent. Please note, tax dependency is not the same thing as being enrolled in DEERS or military dependency. If the service member has a spouse, the spouse must also meet income requirements, meaning the spouse must be working, looking for work, attending school full time, or be mentally or physically incapable of self care. What are eligible expenses under a DCFSA? Some of the typical eligible expenses range from au pairs, babysitting, before and after school care, and elder care services. Common ineligible expenses include non work related babysitting, sorry, no date night, uh, under your DCFSA. Also, food expenses, school tuition and tutoring, and overnight camp. Similarly, a more expansive list of eligible and ineligible expenses can be found on the FSAFeds.gov website. Okay, time for an eligibility check. I am an active, I am a female active component E7 and I recently finalized my divorce. My former husband will have custody of our child during the school year, and I would like to set up a DCFSA to help pay for my share of the costs for after school care. Is a DCFSA right for me? What do you think? And the answer is maybe. This family may be eligible for a DCFSA. It will depend upon if the mother is claiming the child on her taxes as a dependent for that year. Let's try another. I am an active component E3 with a new baby. My spouse is going to school full time, and we use a babysitter so that we can both work and study. We heard about the DCFSA benefit, but aren't sure if we are eligible or if it makes sense for our family. Is this family eligible for a DCFSA? Yes, this family is eligible to enroll in DCFSA. So, how much can you contribute to your DCFSA? The current maximum contribution to a DCFSA is $7,500 per household per plan year. When you consider a DCFSA, remember funds do not carry over to the next plan year. Additionally, funds are not available to reimburse costs until after the payroll deduction. Consider your eligible expenses and when during the year you may need reimbursement. Keep in mind that your household maximum contribution is either $7,500 or the same as the income of the lower earning spouse. Service members may also be able to use the Child and Dependent Care Tax Credit, as well as any applicable military fee assistance or child care subsidies to help manage the cost of care. Time for another quick review. Look at the expenses on the screen. Which do you think are DCFSA eligible? Take a few seconds to consider before I reveal the answer. Let's see how you did. The boxes in navy blue, such as adult day care, before and after school programs, or summer day camp, are considered eligible expenses. And the boxes in gray, such as field trips, transportation, or overnight camps, are considered ineligible expenses. Be sure to visit FSAfeds.gov for a full list of eligible and ineligible expenses to take the guesswork out of the process. DCFSA also has some spousal considerations. As we mentioned, DCFSAs are designed to support families in covering child and dependent care expenses so that the parent or caregiver can work. However, if your spouse is a full-time student or incapable of self-care, the IRS presumes them to have an income of $250 per month for one dependent and $500 per month if there is more than one dependent. As you can see, that's up to $3,000 or $6,000 per year if more than one dependent. Eligible participants are allowed to utilize the DCFSA, the Child Independent Care Tax Credit, and military fee assistance provided they adhere to the IRS guidance on how these tools work together. However, understand that each family's situation is unique and may not benefit or be able to use all three benefits. Consult with a tax professional to maximize the benefit to your specific needs. In addition to being used alongside tax benefits, DCFSAs may also be used with fee assistance programs. If a service member is receiving DoD child care fee assistance, such as child care in your home or military child care in your neighborhood, the service member can also participate in a DCFSA as these programs are treated differently for tax purposes. When using non-DoD fee assistance, such as SNAP or a fee assistance program from the spouse's employer, other restrictions may apply. Again, remember, each situation is unique for that family. Impact will vary depending on factors like family size and total income. Again, it is important to discuss the situation with a tax professional to maximize the benefits available. So, what's the timeline each year for FSAs? Well, let's take a look. For the HCFSA, the Healthcare Flexible Spending Account, open season occurs from mid-November to mid-December each calendar year. This is the annual period where all eligible service members can sign up. During open season, you can select your contribution amount and the number of pay periods for your contribution to be deducted from. Basically, you decide the pace of your deductions. After enrolling in an HCFSA, your full elected benefit becomes available after the first pay period following the enrollment. Specifically for open season, that would be January 1st, or if you enroll via QLE, That would be the pay period after enrollment. Re-enrollment occurs during open season, and if you choose to re-enroll, up to $660 can be carried over to the next plan year. Lastly, remember the important date. Claims need to be submitted on or before April 30th. The claims must be for expenses incurred during the planned year, which runs from January to December. Open season or QLE remains the same as an HCFSA. Note that one major difference is that DCFSA funds must accrue before reimbursement occurs. DCFSA funds also cannot be rolled over into the next plan year. However, DCFSAs have a grace period between January 1st and March 15th of the following plan year where expenses can still incur and be and reimbursement requested. All claims must be submitted by April 30th. Any remaining funds are lost. Okay, so specifically, we have some qualifying life event timeline considerations. QLE requests can be submitted from 31 days before to 60 days after the date of the qualifying event. On or after October 1st of any benefit period, only those QLEs resulting in a decrease in the annual election will be considered. On or after October 1st, QLEs resulting in an increase in the annual election or a first-time enrollment will not be accepted due to the limited number of pay periods remaining. That family will need to wait until open season and enroll during that time and have their benefits start at January 1st of their following calendar year. Additional information can be found at the FSA Feds.gov website. Okay, now that we've covered healthcare FSAs and dependent care FSAs, let's drill down to some of the details of account management. Step 1. Determine your annual election. The service member's annual election or dollar amount can be based on a number of factors, including but not limited to the expenses they plan to claim. As you can imagine, key differences in how both accounts work can help determine how much you choose to contribute each year. You have differences in the election amount. DCFSA is maximum of $7,500 per household. HCFSA is $3,300 maximum per individual or $6,600 per plan year per household where both earners are eligible through their employer and maintain separate accounts. Each year, HCFSA may increase as it's indexed to inflation. DCFSA may not increase each year. You have to check. Do funds carry over? Again, DCFSA, no funds carry over, but you have a grace period from January 1st to March 15th to accrue additional expenses. HCFSA, up to $660 carries over if the service member re-enrolls. And when are your funds available? DCFSA is after payroll deductions. HCFSA is January 1 for open season enrollment or the following period if enrolling through a qualifying life event. Keep these in mind as you figure out what you want to put into your account each year. So, how do you do it? Well, in order to start your savings, you can enroll online each year at FSAFeds.gov during open season. Members can also enroll during a qualifying life event via the FSAFeds.gov website. Remember, QLEs are determined by the IRS and could include PCS or deployment, a change in marital status, such as marriage or divorce or death of your spouse, birth or adoption of a child or dependent, and a change in the dependent's eligibility. For instance, your child reaches age 13 and is no longer eligible uh, as a dependent to save under a DCFSA. Please note a change in child care or elder care provider, a change in cost, um, or a change in coverage. This qualifying life event is only applicable to DCFSA and does not apply to HCFSA. Again, if you have more questions, go to the FSAFeds.gov website. Step 3. Pay and claim for FSA eligible expenses. To ensure you can claim and get reimbursed, pay for your eligible expenses and keep receipts. Ensure receipts include the patient or dependent's name, the provider's name, the date of service, type of service, and cost. You will submit a claim for reimbursement through the FSAFeds.gov website. Claims can be submitted using the FSA Feds mobile app, online at the website, or by fax or mail. Reimbursement is typically processed within 1 business week after approval, and funds are sent via check or direct deposit. Specifically for DCFSA, the FSA Feds can also pay the provider directly using the Pay My Provider option, and you would set that up while you enroll. Your reimbursement preferences can be managed through your FSA Feds account. The FSA Feds mobile app is the quickest and easiest way to submit and manage your claims, check your balance, and more. So, what happens when a service member separates or retires from service? What happens to that FSA account? For DCFSA specifically, any remaining balance may be used for eligible dependent care expenses until the account is depleted or the calendar year ends, whichever occurs first. However, in order to use the grace period, that time, January 1st to March 15th of the following year, you must remain actively employed and make allotments through December 31st of that planned year. If you are no longer employed or stop your allotments before December 31st, you will not be able to use that grace period. For HCFSA, coverage ends on the date of your separation or retirement. Eligible healthcare expenses incurred before this date will be reimbursed, but expenses incurred after the separation or retirement date are not reimbursable, even if the participant accelerated their allotments. Okay, we have covered a lot of material. So let's apply the information in a few scenarios. So in this first one, I'm an active component E6. My youngest child was recently diagnosed with dyslexia. So my spouse and I are seeking dyslexia treatment tailored to our child's specific needs. Dyslexia treatments are not covered by TRICARE, but I would like to enroll in an HCFSA during this open season to help pay for treatments with my pre-tax earnings. I read on the FSA website that I will need to submit a letter of medical necessity to pay for these treatments using my HCFSA. All right, let's break this down. To begin, the service member will need to enroll during open season. They will then need to elect a total contribution amount between $100 and $3,300, as well as choose their preferred contribution base for the planned year. Note, service members may have multiple eligible expenses, so carefully determine your needs. The service member has until December 31st of the planned year to incur expenses, and up to $660 may carry over into the next plan year, while any remaining balance would be forfeit if unclaimed. The service member must submit a letter of medical necessity and gain authorization to use the HCFSA funds to reimburse for dyslexia treatments. Once the service member receives care and obtains receipts from the provider, claims can be submitted to the FSA Feds account for reimbursement. If the service member would like to roll over any funds, they must enroll during open season. So, key dates: open season enrollment November to December. During the plan, get the letter of medical necessity submitted, obtain care, submit receipts, make sure to re-enroll. Remember that up to $660 can carry over, and you have to submit all your claims by April 30th. Okay, let's try another one. Number 2. I'm an active component E5. It's January 2026, and my family is planning to PCS in June 2026, which will change our child care accommodations for our toddler since grandma will no longer be living close by. My spouse works full time, and so daycare is the best option for us. I am interested in opening a DCFSA to help cover our new child care costs. All right. This service member is going to need to enroll via qualifying life event on the FSAFeds.gov website. They can do this anytime from 31 days before to 60 days after the qualifying life event, which in this case is a PCS took place. So if they're planning to move in June, they would be able to enroll sometime in May, up to 31 days before, through August, which is the 60 days after. This will help maximize the 6 months remaining in the plan year, plus a grace period to use any funds. The service member should keep receipts for all eligible expenses and track funds to make sure the DCFSA funds are used by March 15th of the following year. Claims can be submitted through the FSA Feds account for reimbursement or direct payment to the service provider. And remember, if child care is still needed, the service member should re-enroll during open season of the next year. Key dates to remember: that 31 days before to 60 days after a qualifying life event, and then as they proceed to the next plan year, they will need to enroll via open season to continue using their DCFSA. As always, the claims deadline is 30 April, and any funds left in that account will be forfeit. All right, let's see what else do we have. Ooh, dental care. I am an active component E8. My 19-year-old daughter remains on my TRICARE dental plan. She recently expressed an interest in getting clear aligners, such as Invisalign, for her teeth. We have plans for her to start this treatment in March. This will be a big expense, so I'd like to enroll in an HCFSA to help pay for the cost with pre-tax earnings. Okay, what's going to happen? So this service member can enroll in an HCFSA during open season, that November to December timeframe. HCFA HCFSA funds can be used for Invisalign treatments, and the treatments can start in March. Uh, Meanwhile, the service member can claim the full expense with a receipt, even as the elected amount is still being deducted from the paycheck on a pre-tax basis. Remember, under HCFSA, the full elected contribution is available at the beginning of the plan period, in this case, January 1st, based on open season enrollment. Treatment should continue, and receipts can go in and get reimbursed throughout the whole plan year, and if need to continue, re-enroll during open season the following November, December. Remember, you have up to $660 that can roll over into your next HCFSA year. And as always, for both DCFSA and HCFSA, the claims deadline is the 30th of April. Okay, scenario 4. Does the process differ? I'm an O4 on AGR orders. My spouse and I both work full-time, and we have 2 children ages 10 and 12. During the school year, we do not need childcare, but over the summer, we put our kids in day camp so that both my spouse and I can continue to work. Day camp cost us about $4,800 per year. I am interested in enrolling in a DCFSA to pay for day camp with pre-tax earnings. So, what's going to happen here? Well, AGR orders, full-time working spouse, eligible children under age 13. Yep, they can enroll. So the service member should enroll and select a contribution amount. Calculate how much to set aside from each paycheck with an understanding of when they will need to be reimbursed to make sure that the $4,800 is available when it's needed to pay for summer day camp. Why is this important? Because with the DCFSA, the service member will only be reimbursed for funds currently available in the account. So planning the contribution pace is essential. Regular contributions are deducted from the pay on a pre-tax basis and deposited into the DCFSA account, with funds withdrawn automatically from pay at the start of the calendar year and available as they are deposited. The service member should get receipts for day camp payments and submit their claims through their FSA Feds account, with reimbursement arriving via the preferred method. Finally, a reminder, re-enrollment in the DCFSA should be completed during open season, which runs from mid-November to mid-December. All right, last scenario. I am an active component E6. My spouse and I have 3 children. Both of us work full-time jobs. 2 of our children are under 5 and require full-time childcare, about $6,800 per year. Our children also require eyeglasses, dental, and orthodontic care. Can I enroll in both a DCFSA and HCFSA to help with our childcare and healthcare costs? And the answer is absolutely. Dual working spouses meet the eligibility requirements for DCFSA participation. Contribution limit is based on the lowest spouse salary if the income is less than $7,500. In this case, child care costs are $6,800, which is lower than the maximum contribution and below the spouse's salary. Eyeglasses, dental, and orthodontic care are all eligible expenses under an HCFSA. The service member and spouse must determine an estimate up to $3,300 for the service member to establish contribution during open season enrollment. For these costs, no letter of medical necessity is required. At the beginning of the plan year on January 1st, all HCFSA funds are available to use. Contributions will be removed from the service member's paycheck for both beginning at that January 1st paycheck. The service member should seek treatment, keep receipts, and submit claims throughout the planned year. Remember, reimbursement will arrive by the preferred method. Some key dates to keep in mind when working with both HCFSA and DCFSA. All HCFSA related expenses must be completed by December 31st of that planned year. All DCFSA expenses may continue into the grace period if the service member re-enrolls for the next plan period during open season. All claims for both DCFSA and HCFSA must be submitted by April 30th. All DCFSA funds must be used. Any remaining after the 30th of April are forfeited. Up to $660 of HCFSA funds will roll over, again, if the service member re-enrolls during open season. If the spouse also has access to an HCFSA through employment, an additional $3,300 may be contributed by the spouse to that separate account for additional health care costs. As you can see, both an HCFSA and a DCFSA can be used in the same plan year to help manage expenses. However, eligibility guidelines, contribution limits, and important program dates can differ. It's important to plan for these expenses and discuss with a professional to ensure your maximum benefit. Now, where can service members and family go for more information? Service members and their families have multiple additional resources available. There are meal tax experts via the Military OneSource website, as well as personal financial counselors and managers on the installations. You can use the finred.usalearning.gov.pfc map to find a PFC, or you can look at the installations.militaryonesource.mil website to find your local Military Family Readiness Center. Spouses may also enroll on behalf of the service member if they have a valid power of attorney to perform this action. Additionally, after enrollments, FSA Feds provides the ability for a service member to authorize access to the account to a spouse or other individual for submitting claims or other maintenance. Additionally, FSA Feds has benefits counselors available Monday through Friday, and you can reach them via their number here, 877 FSA Feds. Additional online resources include calculators and worksheets. FSAFeds.gov also offers tools to help you calculate savings from participating in this benefit. Included on the website is an HCFSA savings calculator as well as a DCFSA tax sheet. These tools can assist you in your decision making. The finred.usalearning.gov/FSA website also includes numerous resources. They offer information to help and inform and help you assess how FSA benefits may support your families. There are guides and fact sheets. There are claims and expenses, helpers, as well as numerous FAQs for both DCFSA and HCFSA. Visit the FinRed website to access these educational resources. Thank you for your time. Be sure to explore more about this great tax advantage program. Over to you, the OneOp team.
Thank you so much, Dr. Darius, for sharing your time and expertise about flexible spending accounts today. There have been a lot of great resources shared throughout today's presentation. So just as a reminder, you can download a PDF of today's slides. I've On the event page, I've also got the FSA Feds and FinRed resources linked throughout the presentation on the webinar event page. Before we wrap up and talk about continuing education credits and upcoming webinars, I do want to point you to the FinRed website, finred.usalearning.gov. The QR code on this slide will also take you there. On the FinRed website, you'll find tools like financial calculators, videos, blogs, Mill Spouse Money Mission resources, and even a locator to connect with free personal financial counselors. You can also sign up for the FinRed e-newsletter and explore local resources through military installations. To stay connected, check out FinRed on social media. We would also like to invite you to an upcoming webinar, FinTech Navigating Regulations and Risks in Financial Counseling, which will be held on October 28th at 11 a.m. Eastern until 12:30 p.m. Eastern. This webinar educates financial counselors on the Security and Exchange Commission's role in regulating fintech innovations, enabling them to assist service members and their families on the opportunities, risks, and ethical considerations of utilizing these emerging financial technologies. The event page is listed on this slide so that you can go ahead and RSVP. Our current session is approved for one continuing education credit from the organizations listed on this slide. To complete the webinar evaluation and request CE credits, you can navigate to the event page and click on the purple Continuing Education button. While completing the webinar evaluation, we would sincerely appreciate specific suggestions for future webinar topics that could be used directly in your work with service members. At the end of the evaluation, you will choose the correct link for your accreditation. Depending on your CE type, you may be directed to a post test, which you must pass with an 80% or higher in order to receive a certificate of completion by email. Some email providers will direct that certificate to your spam folder, so check there if you haven't received your certificate within 48 hours. If you have any questions about continuing education credits, please email us at the email listed on this slide, ce@oneop.org. Go to oneop.org to access free CE opportunities, blogs, and other resources. We invite you to sign up for the OneOp mailing list and to follow OneOp on social media as well. You'll find OneOp on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for daily resources and OneOp programming updates.